Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at transformation of functions. So let's go ahead and get started. So here it says let c be a positive real number, and suppose we have y equals f of x. Then h of x is equal to f of x plus c, shifts c units upwards, and h of x equals f of x minus c, shifts c units downward. F of x minus c shifts c units to the right, and f of x plus c shifts c units to the left. Now look at these first four here. Notice in the first two how the c is outside of the parentheses. That's going to shift the graph up or down depending on plus or minus. And then in the second two, you can see that the c is inside the parentheses. When it's inside the parentheses, that's going to shift it left or right. Minus shifts it to the right, plus shifts it to the left. And then if we have a negative and then f of x, that's going to reflect it about the x-axis, and f of negative x reflects in the y-axis. And then if we have a number times a number times f of x, well, if that number is larger than 1, then it's a vertical stretch. And if that number is between 0 and 1, then it's a vertical shrink. And I'm going to do an example of each one of these graphs. You'll be able to see them. Now, the first thing we have to do is we have to we need to be familiar with the parent functions. So the parent functions right here, here's the graph right here of f of x equals x, or y equals x, same thing. It's just a straight line. Here's f of x equals x squared, f of x equals x cubed, and then the absolute value of x, and then here we have 1 over x, e to the x, okay, natural log of x, and here's the square root of x, and here's sine, cosine, and tangent. And what you do is we know the graphs, or you have an idea of what the graphs of the parent function looks like, and then you just plot that, and then what you just saw about shifting, you just shift those graphs around, and that'll give you your final graph. So let's go ahead and look at the graphs. We'll do the x squared function. So let's look at the graphs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to graph f of x equals x squared. All right. So there's the parent function. All right. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to type in f of x minus, and let's just type in f of x minus 2. You see how I have the x minus 2 inside the parentheses? And what did it do? It took this graph and it shifted it to the right 2 units. And notice how the x squared, the x minus 2 is in parentheses squared. All right. So now let's take this and change it to plus, and it shifts it to the left 2 units. All right. And then if we erase that, and let's put a minus 2 outside the parentheses, it shifts the graph down 2 units. And you can see here the x minus the minus 2 is not in here with the squared. Let's just go ahead and put in f of x minus 2 like that. You see the difference? See how the minus 2 is not squared, but here the x minus 2 is squared. Well, the red graph, that shifted it down 2 units, and the blue graph, see how it went to the right 2 units. Okay? All right, and then if we change this minus to a plus, you see what happens? It shifts it up. Okay? All right. Now, let's do a combination of them. Let's do plus 2 and say minus 3. So what is this going to do? Well, the plus 2, that's going to shift it to the left 2 units and down 3. So let's hit enter. Oh, I got it hidden. You see there? So you see the plus 2 and minus 3, it shifted it to the left 2 units and down 3 units. Okay? So now let's take a look at negative f of x. And you see what that does? It reflects it about the x-axis. Okay? All right. And then if we look at f of negative x, well, you can't tell because this is symmetrical about the y-axis. But look at this. If we change the original function, let's change it to x cubed. All right? So you can see what happened. The green graph, that's this one right here. And what did this one do? Negative x cubed. You see how it reflected it about the y-axis? This side came over here and this side came over here. Okay? All right. So let's change that back to squared. We'll hide that one. Now let's look at a number in front. So let's do 2f of x. And what that does, remember, the number in front, when it's larger than 1, it stretches the graph. You can see it kind of takes these sides here and it pulls it up. It makes the graph narrower. Okay? Now, what if we change this 2 to a number between 0 and 1? Well, let's do that. Let's do 0.25 times f of x. And you can see here it shrinks the graph, or it makes it wider. Okay? And that's, that's what the transformations do. And you can see here on this one, see how this shifted to the left 2 and down 3? Well, look, watch this. If I put a negative in front, see, it still shifted it to the left 2 and down 3, but then it also reflected it about the x-axis. All right, so I hope this video helped. Check out my other videos. Give me a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.